we need to get more honest. When I say tell the truth, it's easier said than done. Yeah, because it means that we might need to criticize something in our religion. It means that we might have to criticize something in our culture. And a lot of us don't want to be that person. We feel in our spirit that it's wrong. We feel in our hearts that this shouldn't be happening. We feel we don't want to be maybe a part of this. But we don't have the courage to speak up. We don't have the courage to say, guys, because you might be the only voice in that space ringing the alarm bell. About war. Yes, that is the topic I've chosen for this Truth Telling Thursday. Now, I love to dive into these type of topics because I feel like we need to be thinking differently about these topics. So when war is something that brings up a lot of passion, pain, confusion, sadness for many of us, right? And what can we start to do to make sure that in future generations, it doesn't need to get to this, right? What will we need to change in our approach, in the way we think about each other, in the way we treat each other, that in some future date, we would eradicate war, the fact of killing each other, fighting through killing, right? So I really think it's all about the way we think about humans, right? I know that from a young age, growing up in Zimbabwe, I lived in apartheid. I lived with the idea that, humans shouldn't get together and live together in harmony and peace because we're too different. So there was a neighborhood that was for the white people, there was a neighborhood for the black people, there was a neighborhood for the colored people, and they even started to break it down further. There was and we know this, there's like the Indian neighborhood, there's the Chinese neighborhood, there is an Italian neighborhood, and then it goes even further. There's there's the Roman Catholic, school, and then there is the Jewish quarters and the Jewish school, and so I feel like when we can start understanding that we need to find a way to go beyond our race, our color, and our conditioning, and start understanding each other as human beings, as the humanity that we all are. Unfortunately, we're still arguing about religion. We're still arguing about our culture. Like in our culture, this is how marriage looks like. In our culture, this is how education of the girls or boys or this and that look like. In our culture. So there's something in that we need to start to examine. These are difficult conversations because, of course, culture has been there for millenniums, right? And to speak against your culture feels like to speak against yourself. I can just tell you that there are things inside of my culture, being Zimbabwean, being from Africa, that I honestly feel as a awoke, conscious woman in the world, that I feel are not right anymore. Yeah? I do not think that women should be sold for, money, and they call it lobola in my country, right? So that's part of the culture, that a daughter is given away, and then for that, the father gets money, cows, houses, or whatever. I don't think that women should be traded for as a commodity. And I don't think that by me speaking up against that makes me like not a sensitive person to my culture. I feel like we need to evolve. What we did 100 years ago, what we did 200 years ago, what we did 300 years ago, what we did 50 years ago, doesn't apply to what we need to be doing now in this modern time, in this modern age. We need to be courageous. It's going to take some leaders. It's going to take some leaders from the different cultures to say, guys, surely there must be a new and better way of doing this. Surely there must be a way of thinking about marriage in a way that is of service, that is elevating, that doesn't demean or diminish anyone in the process. It takes courage to think differently, and it's easier to fit in and belong even to things that we don't agree with. I think the fact that we still have war in this planet has everything to do with education and how we think about each other as humans. We are still so far away from the place where we can really meet, truly meet, not just in the United Nations meeting, beautiful meeting where everyone can gather and talk together and everyone looks civilized and like, yes, that's your culture, yes, that's my culture, and it all looks like, like we're moving forward. At the grassroots level, inside our families, inside our villages, inside our cities, we need change. We need to change the way humans connect to each other, the way we think about each other. And I think we need to find a common language. I think we need to find a common language, a spiritual language that we can all agree with. Yes? We need to find a new way of thinking about how we relate to each other, just how we treat each other on a daily basis. Imagine kids coming together from all over the world, being able to be taught meditation practices or practices that allow them to see beyond the cultural differences, to see into the heart of this person is exactly like me, even if they, come from a different understanding of culture, even if they dress a different way, even if they believe in different things than me. We can't just expect people to know this from the mind level. There needs to be a different experience. There needs to be the experience of our humanity. We need to start changing the way we educate kids, the way adults interact with their culture. We need to get more honest. When I say tell the truth, it's easier said than done. Yeah, because it means that we might need to criticize something in our religion. It means that we might have to criticize something in our culture. And a lot of us don't want to be that person. We feel in our spirit that it's wrong. We feel in our hearts that this shouldn't be happening. We feel we don't want to be maybe a part of this, but we don't have the courage to speak up. We don't have the courage to say, guys, because you might be the only voice in that space ringing the alarm bell. I hope this video can inspire you to understand that unless we change humans, we're not going to change the misery and suffering and degradation that we see out there in wars, in people still fighting, hating each other, competing against who's right and who came here first and whose idea is better and whose authority matters on this piece of land or that piece of land. We're here for so much more. There is so much more we could be experiencing and doing together if we found ways to dissolve some of these boundaries that cause us to want to take up arms and start to kill each other because we're just so angry. We're just so, whatever that is that leads us into that headspace, I think can be dealt with if we would start speaking up against the very essence of what maybe you've been taught as this is what it means to be human. Yeah, it's about your culture. It's about your traditions. It's about your religion. It's about what if it isn't about that? What if being human has got nothing to do with anything that we've learned or that we've written down on a piece of paper somewhere or that we've been taught to think this? What if being human is so much more about love, about kindness, about ripping up these bizarre cultural stories and creating a new way of how we interact with each other as human beings? It's going to take us a while to get to this place that I'm talking about, but we need to start somewhere. And it starts with leadership. It starts with the willingness to just question yourself. Yeah, if you're listening to this video, if you've got as far as this spot right now, I want you to question yourself, question your culture, like I've had to. Yeah, like I didn't have to. Like I decided to. Like I realized was necessary to. And not just because I wanted to be, a change maker, but because I needed to change. Because some of the things that I'd learned about being human were actually working against me. I'll give you an example. I was taught to be racist because I was brought up in apartheid. And I was taught to hate these people because of the color of their skin and hate those people because of this and that. And I had to first own that. Yeah, I first had to own that this is what's happening. Yeah. So when I started to work on myself, that was part of my process, to have to look at my shadow and see how I was thinking due to what I'd been taught. And then choosing to think differently, choosing to reprogram my relationship with race and humans and other people, and rewrite how I feel about others based on who I want to be, rather than based on what I'd been taught as this is the way to think about this, right? Now, it's easy to say, even though my great-grandparents or my grandfather or, that they were racist, like that, oh, it doesn't affect me, it doesn't touch me, it doesn't, I'm not in that, right? It's easy to be that person, right? But trust me when I tell you, these things go deep. These cultural brainwashing, conditioning, planting seeds that are actually not, that are destructive in our systems. And until we own them, truly own the impact of them on our systems, of just being around that message, yes, you do not transcend it. You do not transform it. You cannot transmute it and start operating, in this case, with unconditional love to people of all different races. Like, it's not a thought, it's an energy, it's a frequency, it's a way of being, of living, which will allow you to, even if you're afraid, speak up in situations where you recognize that something isn't right. Right? So that's just an example of something I've had to work on in myself in order to create a new way of being. Facing our shadows isn't easy. It's easy to blame. It's easy to blame governments, blame whoever, blame your friends, blame the system, blame everybody. Then to look in the mirror and start taking ownership of your own conditioning. Yes, a lot of us are taught to be very proud. I'm African, and I'm not saying I'm not proud to be African. I think it's awesome to be African, but I think it's also awesome to be Chinese or Japanese or anything else, right? So sometimes this pride can lead us to being in a negative place, right? As opposed to that, it really empowers us to understand, how do we stop fighting? How do we stop this negativity that humans have been getting at each other over since the beginning of time? I don't have all the answers, but what I do know is it starts with you. It starts with you being willing to question yourself, question your religion, question your culture, question what's going on in your society, and have the courage to say no. This just isn't right. It may have been, it's okay that it happened 100 years ago. It's okay that it happened 30, 40, 50 years ago. But now there isn't a space for this. And we need to transform this. And I want to be a part of that change maker conversation. And I want to get more people on board to listen and learn how can we change the way we're doing things, right? So war is happening on this planet today because humans need to change, not just in the way we educate ourselves, right? Like that's part of it. But the education that's needed is not available in a lot of places because it would be these type of conversations that make people really uncomfortable. And there's not enough of these conversations happening out there. There isn't enough people willing to question themselves because we want to blame the outside. We don't want to take ownership. If you're listening to this, please share this video with as many people as possible. Because I believe that one mind transforming, enlightening, awakening at a time is the secret for us to get out of this hot mess. We need to stop seeing opposite. We need to leave those opposite positions and be willing to find out where is the place where we meet. Yes, where is the places that we agree? Where is the places that we can respect, love, honor, see each other? But in order to do that forward motion, we need to look back and we need to see what can't be carried forward. What needs to stop at you. And you would be the disruptor. Yeah? You would be that generational person that disrupted your ancestry and said, this is not going to continue through my lineage, through my energy, through my thinking, through my concepts and ideas. It stops here. The pain, the suffering, the anger, the frustration that we put towards each other, because that's what we've been taught to do, can stop with you. Find a place to love yourself in a way where you stop being fragmented and you become more whole. You become more grounded. You become more centered. You become more peaceful and powerful inside of your own self. You become a free thinker. You allow yourself to think as differently as you want to think, and you don't feel alone because you're not thinking like everyone else, right? You allow yourself to think for yourself, is this right? And if it isn't, you have the courage to start speaking up against the things that you know with your beautiful, kind heart just is not right anymore. War needs to stop. There needs to be a time and place in history where we stop needing to blow shit up as a way to communicate with each other. There must be the possibility of some kind of human evolution where we get to another place. A place where we want to play together and a place where we can create a safe space for everybody to thrive and to flourish in some way, form, or shape without violence being a part of that process. Once again, my name is Mahima. I'm the founder of the Mahima Mindset. I'm into radical conversations that help move humanity forward. I want more people to be questioning themselves and transforming their mindset. I would love to see more leaders out there that really understand what it's going to take for humanity to drive forward. It's not enough to fill our heads with textbooks from the past and read, all of this stuff and learn all of these things that just make us into talking heads. We need to move our education system to the heart education, to the education of your soul, of your spirit, so that we can expand our ability to understand each other on a heart level. And through that, I think we might stand a chance of creating a new way of being together, regardless of where we come from, what is the color of our skin, what we're doing in our everyday lives, who we're doing it with, the way we think about life, the way we think about each other. That is what fundamentally needs to change. Be a change maker, click share, and let's spread this message to as many people that are open-minded enough to understand the power of this message. I love you all. Please keep being you. Thank you for supporting me to find more leaders that are ready to be in radical action to transform this world, so that maybe our future generations can live without the fear that we'll blow each other up with horrible, weapons and mass destruction. Stay amazing and stay in love. You're awesome. So much love.